Am I the asshole? For refusing to take my son to visit his dad in the hospital? My ex was hospitalized after an accident. His family called me and asked me to bring my son to see him as they thought he would want to see him when he woke up. My son is only 3 and I didn't want him to be traumatized by seeing his dad in a bad state, so I decided to go see him myself first. When I arrived, his family were upset that I hadn't brought my son with me, but seeing my ex like that was hard for me and I don't exactly have fond feelings for him, so I didn't think it was a good idea for my son to visit until he was out of the hospital. I told his family I wouldn't bring my son hoping they would understand, but they were all angry with me for not thinking about what my ex wanted. My ex's mother, who I've remained close with since we separated, told me I was a selfish woman and a bad wife. I'm trying not to let what they said get to me since emotions were running high, but now my ex has asked me directly to bring our son and I said no, which has caused his family to be angry at me all over again, even though he's going to go home soon and I said I would bring him to visit once he's at home. Am I the asshole? Info: what are you considering a bad state that would traumatize your child? Does your ex have a broken leg, 3rd-degree burns, or what? Everything is not equivalent in terms of scariness to a kid. The fact that you say he's going home soon suggests things aren't that serious. My kids went to visit people in the hospital when they were small. I tried to impress on them that the hospital is a place where doctors, nurses care for you to help you get better. It's not a scary place. I see no real valid reason to not wait until he is home. I am surprised your ex-family don't realize the hospital is not a great environment for 3-year-olds. The risk of exposure to germs, diseases, and the possibility of them being traumatized by not understanding what is happening with their dad, and why he is hooked up to equipment. Child safety comfort should be the first concern. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I was in the same situation with having a 3-year-old visit their injured father in the hospital. It went poorly and my child was stressed and upset for days and suffered night terrors afterwards. Furthermore, why does the child need to go to the hospital? There isn't any reason. The father and his family are thinking more about their feelings than they are the child's. They are the ones being selfish, quite honestly. They can wait a few more days until they go home for the child to visit in a more comfortable, less infectious environment. More information: what does your ex look like? Does he have stitches on his face? Tubes coming out of his body? Why was it hard for you to see him like that, and why do you think it would be hard for your son? Info: is your husband horribly disfigured from the accident? What exact state is he in? I'm in between here depending on how bad the accident was. As a kid my dad nearly chopped his leg off, was hanging on by tendons and skin. My mom and dad decided not to allow any of us kids at the hospital till his leg was reattached. Obviously this was a mutual choice. They've been married more than 30 years now. Not the asshole. This isn't about you, ex, this is about doing what's best for your child. You went to see your ex and decided that wasn't for a child to see, and we'll have to trust you to know. I wouldn't let my 3-year-old daughter near a hospital, unless it was to say goodbye to a loved one of hers. Depending on the hospital, it may not be allowed to bring a young child. The ICU I worked at in one hospital was 16, the current medical surgical rehabilitation floor I work now is 12. The only exception was end of life. Nah. I'm a dad. If I were in that situation, I'd want to see my kids. I don't think his family is the asshole for thinking this. You're not an asshole for not wanting to subject a 3-year-old to what could be a potentially scary situation for him. He could scream and cry and cause more issues than necessary. Not the asshole. He's 3. 5 years ago I was attacked in my home and nearly died. When finally home I still had a badly bruised face, my abdomen was black and swollen, and my memory was so bad I repeat myself every 15 minutes. My kids were 7 and 10 at the time and were brigged to see me because they wanted to. But seeing the scared looks on their face, I wish we had waited. It's not about what's best for your ex, it's what's best for your son. Info: why do you believe the experience would be traumatizing? Not the asshole. There's many good reasons to not bring a child to a hospital, including exposing them to injured or sick contagious patients. If your ex is going to make a full recovery, it's reasonable to wait until he is better to see his son or do a remote communication like video chat while in hospital. You don't owe your ex's family a visitation. Info. What state was your ex in? Was he horribly disfigured, burnt, etc.? Because you stated that he's going home soon, which you'll allow your son to visit him there. Meaning it can't be that bad after that. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Being 3 years old and seeing someone as strong as your parent be hurt in a really bad way is one of the most frightening things that could happen. You weren't selfish. You were thinking of your little boy. You're being kind in bringing your son to visit his dad, in familiar surroundings. Far less strange and scary. I hope your in-laws come to realize this. Likely, they are stressed and freaked out. I was 50 when my mom was hospitalized with stage 4 cancer, and I was shocked to the core when I saw her. I still have that image ingrained in my mind, and I doubt it will ever go away. I think your decision to keep your son home was sound. He's too young. NTA. Info. What is his current condition? How does he look like? With the RSV epidemic, it's not responsible to take a child to a hospital. Not the asshole, but they all are. Nah. You're looking out for your kid, but please keep the same energy when your ex says he doesn't want the kid to do something, see something he's not comfortable with. Nah. He has every right to want to see his kid just in case it's the last time, but you also have the responsibility to do what's right for your kid too. And hospitals are traumatizing. I spent years growing up and hanging out with my grandma, and the image of her in the hospital has supplanted almost every image of her in my head for over a decade. You did the right thing by checking it out first before making your decision. Ultimately, I think if you're honest with them and tell them why in a less charged environment, they'll understand. Not the asshole. You are absolutely right. I had an experience like this with my 2-year-old and an ailing relative in a nursing home. It was so traumatic for him, and if I could go back in time, I would not put him through that again. Not the asshole. A child's needs come before a parent's needs. Not the asshole. If the dude were on his deathbed, then maybe it'd be different. But, yeah, 3 is pretty young to see someone badly injured like that. Info. Did you just straight up say no, or did you offer to discuss it with your ex? I don't think it's fair for you to just unilaterally decide not to bring your son to visit his father in hospital. That should be a joint decision. You're not wrong to be concerned about traumatizing him, depending on how bad the injuries are, but your ex isn't wrong to want to see his child. You've got to discuss it, and you've got to be willing to change your mind. Info. Was his dad waking up from surgery or from a coma in ICU? Did he physically look bad? What are his injuries? Tell your mother-in-law that you want your son to be able to visit his father as soon as possible, but your first priority has to be your son's well-being. There are a number of reasons why it's not safe for him to visit right now. In addition to your ex's appearance being potentially traumatizing, hospitals are full of small children with RSV right now, and it's very dangerous for young children. No doctor will tell you that it's wise to bring a well child into any hospital right now. Offer to set up a video call where they keep your ex's camera off. Info. Was there some implication that his dad, your ex, wasn't going to make it? Info. Is dad awake and communicating, or is he just laying in bed largely unresponsive? NTA. Info. Does the hospital have a child life team? If so, I'd recommend partnering with them to discuss this. This sort of thing is exactly what they are trained to do. At what age are children allowed in the hospital to visit? I recently went to visit a family member, and my husband had to stay in the car with them because they were under 12. I guess every hospital is different.